Welcome to part 1 of how to read music on your cello. First, let's begin by downloading the file linked in the description below. You will open it up and see the most famous piece ever written for the cello, the Suite 1 by Johann Sebastian Bach, Prelude. This beginning of this wonderful suite is by far the most recognized song, and if you continue on cello, hopefully one day you will play this for your family and friends. And I guarantee you by the end of this 18-minute video series, you will be able to at least play the beginning of this song. So let's get into what music is. Music is a combination of sound and silence. Music is any sound that begins and ends. All music exists temporally and is measured by time. It is very important to remember that as we go into understanding the symbols we use to read and process music. When you look at music, you're going to see some symbols. You're going to see this sort of squiggly line and some numbers, and you're going to have some hashtags or maybe little flat B's. You're going to see notes that look like circles, notes that have stems on them, and notes even connected. That's all okay, and they're going to be up and down all over those 5 lines across. And so I'm going to just get into the basics of what those things all mean. Now, let's first start at the very left of every single piece that you're going to play. The top left corner, where music starts. Those 5 lines that go across, that's called the staff or stave, depending on what part of the English-speaking world you are living in. But because I now live in France, I have understood that that is called a porte, as in the door. And every door must be opened by a key, a clé. And so that little squiggle with the 2 dots is called the clé de fa. It is literally the key that opens the door. We call it the bass clef in American English. So remember that. You play the bass clef. You play the clé de fa. The next I would like to move over to are the staff and the lines. It's super easy on cello because the top line, the highest line on the stave, the highest line on the porte is your highest string, which is the A string or La. The middle line is the D string and the bottom line is the G string. It's super symmetrical and super easy to remember. Anything that exists, like for instance on that line, that G line and up to that space right below that middle line is played on the G string. Anything that exists on that middle line, the D, and goes up to the space right below the top line is played on the D string. And anything that exists on that top line and happens above that is played on the A string. Super simple, super symmetrical, easy to remember. Now, those notes can occur on the lines or the spaces. Just remember that. And they can have different shapes. And remember, because all music is temporal and measured by time, we can understand that these notes, regardless of their shape, will have a sort of measurement by time. At the very top of our tree, we have the whole note. And then we have the half note, the quarter note, and the eighth note. It's as if I'm dividing. Here I have $1. And every dollar divided in half, I have what? 2 half dollars. And when I take a single $1/2 and divide that into half, I have 2 quarters. That's the way it happens. And so if I were to think, well, how many quarters is equal into $1? Well, I have 1, 2, 4 quarters right here. Sorry, you can't see it very well. That's as simple as it is. And if you look at the French definitions, it's quite interesting. You have ronde, as in round, for the whole note. Blanche, as in white, for the half note. Noir, for the quarter note. And croche, for the eighth note. Quite interesting. When you add a dot next to any note, you increase it by half of its value. If you look at the second equation I have in the bottom left corner, you have a half note, which is I'll be representing by this $1/2, and that half note is increased by half of its value. What is half of 50? A quarter. And so instead of writing this all the time as, a half note plus a quarter note, half note plus a quarter note, we can combine those two by having it next to each other in simply a half note with a dot. That's all that dot means. It increases the value of a note by half of its value. Moving on over to les chiffres, the time signatures. Every one of those boxes, those squares, those are called measures. Those measures have a value of time to them. Now, how do we know how long each of those measures are and how to divide them up equally? We use the time signature. We use le chiffre. The top number, the 3 that you see there, is how many pulses are in the measure. And as you see, that number is 3. And the bottom number is what type of note, what quality of note equal that pulse. In this case, it is a quarter note. So 3 pulses in the measure and quarter notes equal it. Hence, you'll have 3 quarter notes. In the next example, we have a 2 in the numerator, the 2 in the top, and that is how many pulses? 2 pulses per measure, and the bottom again is the quarter note. So that is going to be 2 pulses and 2 quarter notes per measure. Stay tuned for video number 2, and we're going to get into a little bit more about how to read music on the cello. Thanks for watching.